Okay.
Do you know if she passed the WCS stuff?
Pete.
Yeah, okay. Welcome to the Cleveland Community Police Commission's Police Policy Committee meeting. It is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026, and we are calling this meeting to order at 6:14 p.m. Do a quick roll call. Commissioner Marrero Benito.
Present.
Commissioner Coleman.
Present.
Commissioner Rodriguez is not here. I'm Commissioner Keith Van Leer and I am present. Agenda review. If you've had a chance to look at the agenda, I think it's just a lot of talking through things, seeing what's ready to pass. We've talked about a number of these things before. I think there might be some other things we can bring into this in terms of assignments going forward, right? But we talked potentially about the manual rules being assigned, so maybe we might add that into our section, just talking about what we're going to do with that. We're not going to necessarily pass that tonight, but we want to make sure that work starts happening. Any other thoughts or additions or feedback on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. We will move forward to public. We don't have minutes, to my understanding, we do not have minutes, but I will read our procedures for conducting commission business when facing disruption. So this meeting of the Cleveland Community Police Commission's Policy Committee is a lawful meeting under Section 605.04 of the Codified Ordinances. No person with purpose to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting shall do any act which substantially obstructs or interferes with the due conduct of such meeting, procession, or gathering. Members of the public and the commission are invited to speak only under the rules set by this commission. Speaking out of turn in violation of the rules of this commission interferes with the due conduct of this lawful meeting and may constitute a violation of Section 605.04. The penalty for violating Section 605.04 is a misdemeanor of the 4th degree. So, with that said, we will go to public comment.
Before we do public comment, we have a number of people from the division here. I was wondering if they could just introduce themselves and what department they're from.
You have a mic?
I'll press it. Oh,
It's okay, we got it. That's right, thanks.
If that's okay with y'all.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Sergeant Dalia Lopez. I'm with the Real-Time Crime Center for the Cleveland Division of Police.
Hello, everybody. I am IRS Investigative Research Specialist Grace Rains. I'm also with the Real-Time Crime Center of Cleveland Division of Police.
Hello, Commander Ian Musso, Bureau of Compliance and Technology.
Sergeant John Ball, Mobile Support Unit.
Officer Ryan Holiday, Bureau of Traffic.
Thank you for being here. Okay. All right, so public comment. Do we have any public comment today?
All right, good evening, everybody. This is Lou, a community member, being longtime supporter to our good police officers and the people who are willing to spend their time and energy to work on the commission issues on behalf of the community. Now, what I don't support is the ones in general we consider the bad apples, because we got into this consent decree is because of these bad apples. And then it cost us the lives of the community members and even the good police officers. That is not fair. I just attended the previous meeting, which is for the Brady Giglio work group. I'm glad we will resume the work there. However, I would like to remind right now the commissioners right now in this meeting and also maybe later in our general meeting at the end of the month. When we want to reestablish all the work groups, we have to consider a couple of issues. We do not want our work group to have only limited numbers of people, because commissioners, you all have a different jobs, different schedules. And we definitely want to make the work more transparent, because commissions should be the role model of this. So I would say we need more people representing the community. Even we need to include experts we can get from public defender office, for example, because a lot of the GPOs we have to go through, or some of the new GPOs we want to make, these all have direct impact on people's life. And also on a fair discipline, officers should all receive, not unfair discipline. So lots of the things we need to read all kinds of documents, lots of documents, page after pages. Some of them probably can go over some hundreds of pages. So I wish we can have more community members in these work groups to share the workload, so people will truly understand how hard police department is working for the city, and also how hard commissioners are taking this heavy duty thing. In addition to your job, which will help you to pay all your bills, just like everybody else. We want to be more transparent. We want to show the old ways are wrong. That's why we have the consent decree. If we want to really make the compliance fully, we better chase after the time, hurry up to do all the good work. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Is there any other public comment?
My name is Cynthia Beard, and I want to know which committee would be appropriate for hearing an update on the program's grants process. And I don't know which committee, but if you can tell me that and which meeting I should.
Budget and grants.
Budget and grants, which meets.
Second one.
Oh, sorry.
The first or second.
That committee would be budget and grants, yeah, and Dr. Adams is gonna look up.
We can
when
talk
it's
to you
at.
after.
Yeah, we can talk to you after, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we do also understand the community's frustration and people who receive grants are supposed to receive grants. I know that process has been delayed. So we understand that's a problem and we'll do what we can.
Okay. Did you still expect them to have completed the work in the?
We'll talk to you after. Okay. Please talk to us after. Is there any further public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll keep moving to basically things we've talked about before, a work session with some potential votes on some of this work. So vehicle pursuits and the pursuit investigation team, they're on the list. The PIT is not something we're going to go deep into tonight, but the vehicle pursuits, Commissioners Coleman and Morera Benito. Take it away.
Do you want to talk about it? Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So we have an updated draft of the vehicle pursuits policy. I'll kind of go over some of the major changes that we made, and then we also wanted to have a discussion about one of the changes specifically. But there were some questions about the balance that we are trying to strike is how do we understand that pursuits are dangerous, and we also understand that there is danger in not allowing officers to pursue someone who might be a threat to the public. And so what we are trying to do with this policy is walk that line that limits danger to the public through a pursuit, but also allows officers to pursue when it would benefit the public safety. So some of the changes that we made is we removed under number 2 and under initiation criteria, we thought that it was not really appropriate for us to name probable cause. And so we removed that. And so now the criteria is that that officers may initiate a pursuit when all of the following criteria are met. 1, the suspect operating the vehicle or occupants within the vehicle refuses to stop at the officer's direction and flees apprehension for a violent felony. 2, the suspect operating the vehicle or occupants within the vehicle are armed and dangerous. 3, the immediate danger of the pursuit is less than the immediate or potential danger to the public if the suspect remains at large. And 4, The officer is operating an unauthorized emergency vehicle with lights and sirens activated during the pursuit, and the vehicle's GPS tracking software is fully functioning. The other change that we made was we changed the definition of violent felony. So so this is then when it says that they have to be fleeing apprehension for a violent felony. What that is defined as is a crime in which the force used against a person was deadly or caused serious physical harm as defined by the Ohio Revised Code. The crimes include murder, manslaughter, aggravated robbery, rape, sexual battery, arson, kidnapping, aggravated burglary, or felonious assault with a deadly weapon, and the vehicle,
Felonious assault resulting.
yeah, thank you, and felonious assault resulting in serious physical harm. An officer having to move from the path of a fleeing vehicle or incidental contact between a fleeing vehicle and the police vehicle does not constitute a violent felony for the purposes of this order. Given the totality of the circumstances, the controlling supervisor shall determine if the pursued vehicle committed a violent felony for the purposes of this order. So the way that this was changed is we took out attempted, so it previously said attempted or used. We took out attempted, and we also took out likely to cause serious physical harm and said caused serious physical harm. So,
That's it.
yeah. And then, but I think the one thing that we did want to discuss is we did previously have an item in here that said that we would limit pursuits between the hours of 2 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday during the CMSD school year. When we had that in here, the definition for when people could chase was broader. And so we instead significantly limited when pursuits could happen and felt like that then in those situations that the potential danger of pursuing during after school hours, then the types of crimes that people would be pursuing, that greater outweighs the potential harm to that. But I think that we would still like to have some conversation on this committee about that choice.
So what is our goal tonight with this? And we do have members of the division here who can perhaps,
Have they seen it?
I do not know.
I don't think
Yeah.
I printed out.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how you want to manage that.
I would like to give Commissioner Diane an opportunity to speak.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I definitely agree with the some of the changes you made to take out the word that says could have possibly caused harm to, they definitely cause harm, but I definitely disagree with taking out that time restriction. I think that dismissal hours aren't about, opening door to crime. I think it's closing the door for these negative events or these terrible events to happen. We know that there's an elevated risk of a child being harmed. I mean, in our one of our accountability meetings we had in the Tech Hive, you remember it was an attorney that came in, Ms. Bolton, and gave her story of her experience being involved in a police chase. And she said it was terrifying. And she said the first thing she did was look up. And when she looked up, she saw a young boy walking home from school on the corner, and that car barely missed him. So it's not about saying that it's not really, it's less about the time restriction and more about the elevated risk to children. And having personally been impacted by this, and there are provisions in the policy that states, like, even if something terrible like a mass shooting or something happens during that time, the police can pursue. So it's not stopping them from pursuing, if something actually terrible did happen. It's just taking away that discretion when, we're all human. We all can create errors. It's like really limiting it unless it's absolutely something negative. So I definitely think that, on the behalf of just myself, my family, you know, thinking about the children in Cleveland, I think that we should keep that time frame in the policy. And I mean, the thing is, we are trying to get to police reform. We're not going to get to the true reform and constitutional policing we want if we stay the same. We can't keep these things the same. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to learn from the experiences that we go through. I mean, I just remember that day. Not only, I mean, I don't know what this, I mean, it was just a terrible experience when that happened back in 2019. And we have to bring up, like, it not only will help children, but it's going to reduce the risk to officers as well. There was some terrible blowback from that incident. And I don't know if what really led to the incidents that occurred with certain officers in that incident, but I can't imagine that seeing a child laying on the ground help their mental health state. So I just think that we should keep it. I would advocate for a higher level of safety than not. Like, you know, I just think we should keep it.
Coach or Adams, do you have any comments? I know you yeah. No, it was just about the vehicle pursuits, but I know you are otherwise occupied.
Well, I say, can I say?
Yeah, please.
I guess that for me,
Can you oh, there you go.
I think that I'm just gonna speak from like the perspective of like an educator, and I am concerned about when kids are transporting to and from school, and I know that's like something we'll talk about a little bit, and I know that there's some concerns about that, but I just want to put on the record that I do think that, like Sharina said, you know, in certain circumstances, they're going to be allowed to pursue, irrespective of maybe even the time, depending on what they're pursuing. But we can not put our children in more danger than they're already experiencing in the city right now. I would prefer not to.
So what are I think where we would all should focus what are the things we should chase for? So you said there would be things they could chase for regardless of the time.
Then you guys put a clause in there that, you know, if it was.
I think what would help is look at the definition of violent felony and then identify what exceptions there would be to the time frame, if any.
Oh, sorry.
And then, because basically what we were trying to accomplish was, if there are exceptions between the 3 to 5, we were basically saying, okay, well, that must be what is serious enough we think could be a chase between 3 to 5, and then we were trying to limit it, period, to those most serious things. That's what we were attempting to do. So if we put it back in, I guess it's the same result no matter what.
Yeah.
But maybe we did not accomplish that. That's why I think we have to look at the crimes and see what exception people will be comfortable with 3 to 5, because our attempt was to just limit it to that exception.
So yeah, I think what Commissioner Coleman is saying is instead of having a time that you can pursue.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh,
I think what we were trying to edit it as was trying to accomplish the exact same thing. So the people that would want the 3 to 5 time limit would have to say what are the exceptions where a chase could happen in that 3 to 5 time limit. Because we were trying to take that and make that the only thing. So basically it's like, if there's an exception, do you see what I'm saying? It's going to be the same thing. Like, you're going to be allowed to chase no matter what. That's what we were trying to do, but we might not have. So that's why I think if you would just have to, like, what do you want the exceptions to be?
I think the option, that one thing that, and I think this would make the policy strong, easier to use for officers, is that this is what you can chase for, period. And that when that chase happens, we know that we can think that that is serious enough that it overcomes the potential risk. And so, you know, I think like how we further limited it was it had to actually cause serious physical harm or killed somebody and was used, and the person is armed and dangerous.
Right.
So what we could do is we could actually specify it could be a multiple casualty event. Maybe because I think the thing
I see
that
what you're saying, yeah.
what we all agree on is like the mass shooting, right? Then maybe what we do is we just literally name what types of crimes we think that people should chase for.
Well, I want to say this. I want to ask the officers because I know when I worked at the hospital, I hate when people made policies for us that worked on the floor and they never worked on the floor. So what are certain, like if you had to choose certain crimes, if you know, what's your suggestion, like select things, what do you guys think?
I mean, I don't think we're prepared to name specific crimes. Tonight, this is the first time we've seen this draft of the policy. I do, however, if it's permissible, have a question.
Why was probable cause removed specifically?
From which section?
The definition of violent felony. It's the first sentence is struck out. Officers having probable cause to believe the suspect committed a crime.
I believe why we took it out was in the initial draft that we received from PDP did not have it, and then we added it in, and we believed that we were adding in more confusion by adding it in, so then we removed it. But if my memory serves correctly, it was not in the draft provided to us by PDP. And so we thought, why are we adding legalese in here? That's not.
They didn't already have. And then the same for the probable cause on under initiation was another one we added, then took out. You're right. Yeah.
Okay, I believe that most division officers feel that the crimes listed under violent felony are reasonable. I know that most officers would only choose to pursue for violent offenses like listed, but I don't think we're prepared to speak specifically on it.
And I know that would probably be very difficult because so many things can happen. I don't know. I just feel like if we know that certain hours carry a higher risk of children if chases occur and we don't restrict pursuits during that time, then we're accepting the risk on our behalf if a child does get injured. And honestly, they can't speak for themselves. They can't vote for this, but we can. So we have to do everything we can to protect them. So I do think that should be included. I think that, that is why we're here, to speak for residents who can't speak for themselves.
So that would mean then so basically to put the 3 to 5, that means there are no exceptions.
There are exceptions, like what you said.
Well, that's what we would have to figure out.
Yeah.
What are they?
Like violent crimes that result in like death or injury, and just kind of the same restrictions that you guys put for it, or violent. What was the part that you added, Chandra?
I think that what we would that it seems like the consensus of the exception to the 3 to 5 would be a mass casualty event, and I think I see two options. One is we limit pursuits to mass casualty events, and we could change like mass, or like violent felon, how we define that to violent felonies that result in death or serious physical harm to 2 or 3 or more, however we define that, people. Or we could keep it as it is, and we could have the 3 to 5 policy, but then we further define, no chases within what I can't remember what the language is here. Officers shall not initiate pursuits between the hours of 2 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday during the CMSD school year, with the exception of mass casualty events. So we could do that. I know that it's from a policy standpoint, it's a little bit weird to have an exception section with an exception. So I understand that, but
you're saying put the mass casualty under the 3 to 5.
Yeah,
but
that makes a broader policy than I think they actually want, that you want.
How so?
Because it allows for more instances for there to be chases.
No, but I think what she's saying is, can we keep this definition of violent felony? Mm-hmm. So these are the things that you can pursue for all the time, except for 2 to 5. And then between 2 to 5, you can only pursue for mass casualty.
Okay, so, but you said the first option would be to just make that mass casualty, which is stricter, but I'm
Which is-
fine either way.
Do we have a, you're okay either way? Do you have a,
Well, no, I think the latter is convoluted. I think the first one gets what everybody wants, but it is maybe
Very
too
strict.
strict. It's very, very, very strict. Which I guess well, my personal opinion doesn't matter. I'm not pro Chase. So
Yeah.
to me, a stricter policy, I don't mind it.
yeah.
But I do see we need law enforcement to be able to do their job. So I don't know. That's something I would want to hear, I guess, from officers to see how often are these things occurring versus a mass casualty, I guess.
And I'm not saying, I'm okay if it was like, if one person was killed, Chase. You know, I'm not saying it has to be just the mass casualty, but it has to be an actual crime where someone was injured and not just you thought something was going to happen that possibly could not have happened, you know?
Oh, no, this policy,
That does
no. So I think the question is, you're saying that if there was a murder, right, and what this is saying is that a crime had to have been used against somebody that was deadly or caused serious physical harm. So that has to have happened, not could have happened, not, you know. But the question is, do you feel like that, you're okay with that being, resulting in a pursuit even during the 3 to 5 time?
So that's
Well, then I
what
think
this
that's what
policy
the
is.
policy is already.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at initiation criteria, those are really great.
Well, yeah, I get it. Well, I guess the part where, so it was a murder or, so like maybe not like an assault or something like that, but just like, honestly, just death, like a murder. If it's not a murder, then you're in the school zone, you shouldn't be chasing because it can cause another.
Right.
Yes. So
to
maybe we
fix
limit it.
To fix the policy, what you should do is read violent felony and then pick out what you would not be okay with happening 3 to 5.
So I think
That's
the
what we-
aggravated, I mean, one thing we could do, we could make it only for murder.
Well, yeah, same thing. That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
look at the definition
Yeah.
and ask yourself,
Do you see
what
where in the policy we're
should
talking about
not
that?
happen 3 to 5? And that's like
And that's
where
the
you
thing.
start from.
So, because I think,
Because my thing, if I was like hit over the head, but I'm alive and I'm laying on the ground, I wouldn't want the police to chase the person and kill a kid because I got hit on the head. You know, it just doesn't make sense that I'm injured, but then somebody has to die because I'm injured. You know, but if a death is something else to me, I don't know. That's just me.
I'm not opposed to limiting it to murder. Like, I think the question becomes, what about attempted murder? Where like someone is seriously injured and
attempted, didn't we?
yeah. But I think but attempted murder where they were physically harmed is what I mean. Like, so let's say someone's shot and they are bleeding, you know, like they went to the hospital in critical condition. At that point, it's not murder, right?
Right.
But I mean, I'm really like, I am okay
Is
with
there a
limiting
way
it to
to
murder.
like the thing that's already in there about the school zones and all of that? Is there a way to strengthen that?
Where is that?
I don't know where it's at, but it's in there.
So that's under C1.
But
Whether-
then if you still would want exceptions to it, you still have to look at
Yeah.
the things listed under violent felony and
Right.
figure out what you don't want to happen from 3 to 5.
So here's one thing. The thing, if I could just make this like my personal opinion on this right now would be murder and kidnapping. To me, those are the things that I feel like potentially outweigh that risk. Like if we're not doing 3 to 5, murder and kidnapping.
So, okay, I have a question, guys. I don't know if you can answer it. So here it says, when initiating and continuing our pursuit, officers shall continually take into consideration the factors of like weather and school zones and things like that. Like, if you guys are going into a school zone, if you are pursuing into a school zone, like, do you automatically stop or do you keep going? Like, what can we do?
So school zones, area, geographic area, time of day have already been
Taken into consideration.
Right.
One of the things I understand that it is likely the goal to restrict the pursuit policy even further. I understand that. But it's something to consider that these decisions are being made in seconds,
Yeah.
right? So your example earlier was, if I was struck in the head laying on the ground, but I wasn't dead yet, I wouldn't want them to pursue. But it takes time to determine whether or not you're dead.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll give you a real life example, and you just brought up an example of kidnapping. So this is really what happened to me as a detective. And we had, at the commander at the time, had to make a decision to pursue a non-custodial father had his children outside of the rules of whatever the agreement was. The mother of the children made a call to the police. We did a report for her, and we broadcasted the make and model of the car. A zone car in the 4th District found that car and made a traffic stop based upon that information. The man made a phone call to his wife and said, "I'm leaving this earth and I'm taking the kids with me," and then left the scene of the crash. Left the scene of the traffic stop. Under your policy, we stop right there and the car goes. In real life, a decision had to be made in seconds. And a decision was made by the commander at the time to pursue. And they pursued him all over the 4th District, finally stopping the car and getting the children back safely. But if we don't take into consideration that these types of things happen, and they happen in moments in time, we would literally have had to say, just with some of the description of the policy so far, the car goes.
Okay, but let's just say if there's a scenario where he decided to take off, he takes off, but then there's a fair or a party or a community event and people are in the streets. Do you keep going?
That's in your policy already with the due regard.
I think what she's asking, what Coach is asking is, we know that you're taking it into consideration,
Yes.
but what does that practically mean?
So there will be times when traffic conditions and fairs and school being let out would be taken into consideration, and the supervisor would terminate the pursuit, or the members initiating the pursuit would self-terminate for those reasons, for sure. Pursuing these days is not favorably looked upon, and most supervisors have a very restrictive view of it, and they are very often not allowed to pursue once they're initiated. But yes, all of these things are considered for sure. But I would just caution you against making decisions about what we would know in the moment before we can decide to pursue. And remember, this is a 16-page pursuit policy. It's 16 pages is very difficult to remember in the moment when I find you laying on the ground, not sure if you're dead or not, and the car's speeding down the street.
Right.
It's near impossible, which is I'm an advocate for less wordy policies. But obviously, what some of the discussion you've already had is if we pursue for murder, I mean, it's an extremely restrictive policy, essentially eliminates pursuits across the city.
Yeah.
And then the question is, how do we know you're murdered? You may still be bleeding out. And if we don't know for sure you're murdered and the policy says so, we're not pursuing.
Yeah, no, those are good points. I think also at the top of page 3, you probably already looked at what violent felony, how that's
Yeah, I'm looking at it now.
defined here, so that's.
Everything is terrible.
Yeah, kidnapping.
I'm gonna be honest. I think we need more conversations with them. Yeah. I think we need more conversations with them.
I have a question, Commander.
Yes, sir.
In terms of the involvement of supervisors or, not the patrol officer, how often is that, like, in terms of initiated versus, I mean, you may have exact numbers, right? But like, in general, do officers initiate pursuits before checking, or they check while they're how does that interplay work between officer-made decision and supervisor?
So there are times when an officer might be audibly saying, we're pulling up to a car that matches that description, and supervisor might preemptively say, hey, if that car takes off, we're not pursuing. So that actually happens quite often because communication is going back and forth in response to these calls. If officers initiate a pursuit, they are required by policy to immediately go over the air, say what they're doing, why they're doing it, direction of travel, all of the things we've discussed. And then the policy requires supervisor to go over the air, identify themselves, say they're monitoring the pursuit. And at that point, they are supposed to say, you have permission to continue or you have to stop. And once they stop, we have a certain procedures we are required to follow. And all of those are investigated in tracking software afterwards. And officers are held accountable if there's violations of the policy. I mean, just the other night, we had an active shooter in the city of Cleveland, and we chased him until he was caught. Multiple aggravated robberies, multiple attempted carjackings, aggravated burglary. And they pursued him across the city. Sergeant Lopez was working. Is that correct? Carjacking, is that violent felony? Attempted carjacking? I think we took the attempted out.
Right, when it's live, it's a little
JC,
different
on the mic,
than
please.
the policy.
Of course.
Thank you, Commander. I do just want to add to that, specifically that pursuit, what you've discussed, it wouldn't have applied. We would not have been allowed to chase if that is added on.
So it sounds like co-chair, you're saying we need more
I
time.
think we need to have more
okay.
discussions with and engagement with CPD before we move forward.
Other thoughts?
I'm totally fine with that.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I think,
So we've okay, go ahead.
oh, I think that we had, between the last committee meeting and this one, we had almost 2.5 weeks of holidays. And so
Yeah.
I think that the timeline didn't really allow for as much engagement. And so, but, in that time, we've created an updated draft. I think we can take the next month to talk to CDP. And then I think that there's also a few committee members we've identified. So I
And I
think,
think that was the plan
Yeah.
originally anyways,
Yeah.
that we had been trying to, there were certain CDP members we had been trying to meet with. And then we just felt like the policy had been sitting too long. So
Yeah.
I'm totally fine. That was the original plan
Yeah.
anyways.
So yeah, well, we did reach out to DC Schlott, and it just got, like you said, the holidays. So we will reach out to DC Schlott and you, of course, Commander, and try to get that meeting on the books sooner rather than later.
Okay. That sounds great.
And you have a copy of it. Would it help to get a digital copy?
Yes, please.
So we should send them that.
Can I
Yeah.
ask one more question? I just wanted to ask one more question to the officers. Do you all have some type of system? I don't know, if the state of Ohio, but we get those like sort of like the Amber Alerts. Like if, say, for example, hypothetically there was this 3 to 5 or 2 to 5, I can't remember what it is, in the policy where there's like exceptions, and then if something does have to happen in that time frame, is there some type of system that the city has that can alert the public that this pursuit is happening during that time? I just feel like that would be useful because it,
We may have a technology that would work for something like that. We'd have to look to see, but we may have a technology like that.
I think that would make me, because I'm hearing everything you're saying, and that's why we need you here
That would be
to help
really
us to
helpful,
try to get
because
to the
when
right
kids
decision.
just stay and you just lock
Yeah,
down. and
because
you
for
know,
example, if it was like before the school got out, we probably just keep the kids in school.
Yes, of
Or
course.
like call
And
parents.
Some of the recent examples I've just given were examples of longer pursuits, but truly, and we can get these numbers, that most pursuits are over within seconds. Yeah, either they're getting away, they're terminated, or they're crashing.
Yeah.
So they're not typically lengthy.
And that could be useful for the public as well, because I think when I read about these pursuits and a lot of them and how they end, it's like they're crashing into regular people who are
Yes.
just, so if the public would know.
But the
this pursuit's
crashes
happening, right?
occur oftentimes once the pursuit's been terminated. So we find that the driving behavior continues, even though when the lights and sirens go off and we turn the opposite direction. So reckless drivers tend to drive recklessly. You know.
Thank you.
You want?
Okay, so we'll work on that, and also the other related GPO is the Pursuit Investigation Team GPO, so maybe we can roll that conversation in when we have
Sure.
a conversation with you all. To sort of get that moving and get that vetted and work through that.
Do I have that one in my inbox?
Yep, go, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, should be, yeah. Yeah.
I can find it.
Okay. All right, then we're good. No more questions about that? We're good to move forward? Okay. The next piece is one we've talked about, wearable and in-car camera systems. There are actually 3 GPOs related to that. I don't know if those were printed out. It doesn't look like it.
I mean, if we do.
What's that?
You mean for now?
There's
Or could we
three
do?
different ones.
Yeah, I mean, might as well, at
Let's see
least,
if
yeah, it would be helpful. I've sent them out.
Chair, which one? There were 3.
There are 3, so I'd like to talk about all 3, because
Oh,
the main one is the one we've talked about a lot, which is the wearable camera systems and in-car camera systems, general GPO. Then there's the supervisors one, which is a lot shorter, and the general the definitions. But we've looked at all of them, so I would love to have, I mean, the main one, I think that is essentially the same one we looked at last time. With one change that we already had flagged before, and I'll talk about that, but it might be helpful to do that. But we can wait a bit and come back to it if you're printing out. Do you have them?
Yeah, you sent them in the email, right?
I did. I sent them 2 separate emails, one with the main GPO and 2 subsequent ones with the 2 other GPOs.
Can we resend the pursuit investigation team? I'm having trouble finding it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do it right now.
No, yeah, but just,
So if we want, we can just start talking about some of the other things, because we've talked about them before, and it's not decisions right now. Okay, just like social media, I think somebody had ended up volunteering for that.
Commissioner Coleman volunteered. I have started
Okay, great.
finally. That's my update.
Yeah, all right, that's all we need. Yeah, that's great. Just to keep ourselves going. Other surveillance tech pieces, obviously wearable, the camera systems is part of that, but ALPR, I think Co-Chair Adams, you had raised the issue of looking at if it were to switch, well, that's actually Flock, never mind. We were talking about data sharing, and that request by me, I see I took a lot of the notes out from our last meeting, but I did not take that out. I had said I would do something around that, and I don't remember exactly what. I'll have to go back and look at
Which
that.
one?
The ALPR?
Oh, that was,
the community concerns that have been raised about the data sharing.
Right.
And so we were gonna ask the division for, the policies around, Block's data sharing policies and to review that.
Is that something somebody here has expertise on and can at least send us something on that?
Yeah, we can get that to you.
Okay. So that'd be great. All right. Okay. ShotSpotter. I mean, a lot of this is just keeping this stuff on the radar. So ShotSpotter, I know there's talk about moving to Flock, and I believe our GPO does not mention a specific vendor or technology. Is that correct?
Right.
And I think that was a question there, like, do we want to revisit that if the division goes to Flock? And I think it's just a flag. I don't know that there's much we need to do right now, because that's in progress. And it's just something, I think the point that was made, and that might have been you, Co-Chair Adams, was like, as we pass these GPOs, do we want to continue? We had sort of removed vendor names from it.
Right.
And do we want to go back to putting vendor names in it so that when the vendor might change with different capabilities, that allows us to, or requires us, basically forces us to revisit the GPO. Is that
Yeah,
accurate?
my idea around it was because at first we passed the policy that was specific to shot spotter, and then we came back, like you said, and then we made it like more general, like a gunshot detection system, GPO. But considering there's so much conversation around flock, and I don't know how long the contract is with ShotSpotter, but I think they're entertaining maybe switching over. So I just felt that we can keep the GPO as it is, but I think we should add something that if they are going to change the system, that it will require them to bring that back to us, so we can at least look at what they want to change to. So that was my suggestion, because right now the way that we have that GPO, they don't have to come and notify us even if they switch systems right now.
And I think that's a good flag. I think what maybe we can do in this case is, if and when that change happens, we can take it up on our own too and just look at that change and decide what we want to do with it. So, but I think it's a good flag to keep that in mind. The ShotSpotter contract ends in 2 different stages, right? Do you have on top of mind when that is?
I believe either March or April.
Right. Okay. And it's not that flock has just been approved yet.
No, as far as I know, the conversations around those have kind of it haven't been as often. So.
Right, and that's a city council decision to some degree as to a contract. It would have to be approved by city council, right? Okay, so we've got some time on that. I mean, March is actually not that far away, but we'll keep an eye on that. All right. Any other questions about that?
I have a question. I just want to make sure I understand what's happening. So we're saying to keep in the policy the brand name so that if the division switches, they have to come to us to make this. Is that what we're saying?
Well, that's one possibility. I think we want to think about that. I mean, we have the ability at any moment to take up a GPO and reconsider it. If the city were to go with flock instead of ShotSpotter, we could look at flock and how it's different, how it's the same. And then if we choose to revise the GPO and if that happens, then we can make that decision. Do we want to make this about flock?
So we are leaving it the brand names right now.
Well, we're not changing the GPO right now. We'd have to take up the GPO and rewrite it right now. We passed it already without the vendor name.
That's what I
So
thought.
I don't think we need to go and do it right now, but if this change happens, then we need to revisit it. And then if we take it up again, we can make that decision in that moment. That'd be my suggestion.
So I think that the process of updating GPOs is a little bit cumbersome, and especially for just for changing the name on it. But I wonder, could we put forward a different, requirement, and could it be could be a GPO, could it be some other type of policy that the commission passes that says when specifically to surveillance tech, if the division, when they accept a contract with or they're considering a contract with a provider, then they have to notify us and we have the right to review it. Like, to me, that
Sure.
Instead of doing it through this kind of other backhand channel of then now we have to update the GPO, but then it gets into doing that, but I would rather just we have a conversation with them and talk to them about it before they get into it.
Sure.
Whenever possible, if it,
Yeah, we have to think of the best way to do that, whether it's specific, each GPO that's related to each different tool, or if we can do something more general. Yeah. Okay. I think the drones was in there for a similar reason. I don't know. Did anybody have questions about drone policy on manned aerial systems?
One at a time.
Because I think that's a similar question of if a new technology, a new tool comes in, whether it's a new vendor or the same vendor, and it has different capacities, then we can look at that. So, Okay. All right. AI and Fusus are in here just as flags. We have the division, and maybe this is something we can decide or like sort of start to work on right now. The Fusus piece, they have offered, we have requested, and they have offered to do a presentation on Fusus. And of course, it just was hard to. I was trying to work with the Surveillance Tech Committee, and not a lot of people responded, so we need to go back to that. But it could be best to do what we've done in the past, which I forget, was it use of force perhaps, where we had them come and present for like 45 minutes or an hour to the policy committee, and that's recorded. We make sure that's got a good recording that can be shared with other people, who are getting their input on. Because the goal right now, there's a divisional notice on Fusus, but there is no GPO, and our concern is that there needs to be a GPO. That's an issue that's been flagged by members of the Surveillance Tech Committee, the Surveillance Tech Work Group, and members of the public outside of that. So yeah, that's the question there. Would it make sense? Do you all think that would be good to set aside time in one of our next couple meetings to do a presentation like that? Okay. I will reach out to DC Schott on that. Okay. All right. And I do have a question, Commander, on artificial intelligence to the extent that that's being used. I mean, you don't have to give a complete answer, but maybe it's something we're interested in knowing more about. The extent to which AI is being used along with the surveillance technology. What's your quick answer to that, or if you feel comfortable? If not, we can just have a conversation at a later date when you're prepared.
I think that the conversations on AI are starting to heat up, and recently I know that there's been some conversations from the city where they're inviting us to conferences and having communication about AI in the public sector, but quick answer would be it's not at this point. Forgive me if I'm missing something in the deep details of some system we have, but not at this time.
Okay, that's helpful. Any questions about that? Do we agree that it's something we need to keep track of?
For sure.
I think that if we had more information about the specific technologies as well, that would help us to also understand that, like, that it is utilizing AI or it's not utilizing AI.
Right. So far, it sounds like there isn't use, but maybe that can be a conversation, part of the Fusus presentation that can.
Well, so yeah, we don't use facial recognition. You're talking about specifically surveillance type technology.
Yeah.
No.
And to what, like, to the extent, for example, with ALPR, I mean, can that be considered AI, like in terms of analyzing data? Or, I mean, AI is a fuzzy thing, right? I mean, a Google search.
AI.
Yeah, right.
It's not
It's not looking at stride.
facial recognition. It's just pulling photos. Just taking a picture.
Yeah. Right. So that'll be part of a different conversation, especially as you all. Sounds like you're getting more involved in conversations about it.
Just today there was a meeting from the city, so it's starting to heat up a little.
Okay.
But
all right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. All right. So are we ready for wearable and in-car camera systems? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. So again, we've talked about these in the past. We've mostly focused on the 4.06.15, which is the general wearable and in-car camera systems GPO. There's also the definitions and the supervisory reviews and investigations. Those two separate GPOs. So 4.06.16 is supervisory reviews and investigations, and 4.06.14 is the definitions. those two, the smaller ones, the supervisory and the definitions are essentially the same as what the division gave us. The highlighted, italic and red, although we have a black and white printer, those are all changes from the division. To my knowledge, we have not changed anything in those two. Are there any questions about either of those two while we wait for the other?
When I read through all three, I did not have any flagged issues from these.
Okay. Mr. Coleman, do you have any questions about the other two?
Was there a reason why on the general, the highlights, was that supposed to indicate something?
Yeah, so for right now, we're looking at the other two.
Okay.
So if you have any questions about those two, because then we'll dig into them. Yeah. Okay. Co-chairs, do you have any? Okay. All right. So,
So I've got one thing.
yes, please.
So under the event mode, where it says 30 seconds of pre-event video and audio will be captured, it's only 30 seconds of video, no audio.
Okay. So it's in the very first definition, well, the third definition of that mode, 30 seconds of pre-event audio, not video.
Video only. Not
Video only.
No audio.
Oh, right, okay. So we will,
30-second buffer. There's no audio.
okay. We will make that change.
Thank you.
And I'm just thinking, I think I've looked through this and I have not seen, at least in these first two GPOs we're talking about, any specific vendor except for evidence transfer manager, the docking unit used to recharge the WCS and upload the encrypted capture media. And then that goes to evidence.com. So that is vendor specific.
Oh, that's a vendor? I thought that was like a type of technology.
Evidence.com is the actual software system. It's not the vendor, but it is.
But it's a
proprietary.
Proprietary thing. And evidence transfer manager.
Is ETM a name of a brand or is it no?
It's just a thing.
It's just a document.
And lots of
The
different.
evidence goes from the camera to the document.
Yeah, and other various companies can have that same thing. You call it the same thing regardless. Okay, that's helpful. And evidence.com. What would you describe evidence.com as? It's a
That's our storage.
storage. Yeah. We could add language to the storage unit in use, or this seems like something that is not, we wouldn't need to necessarily approve it if they change their storage.
Are there a lot of different vendors for that or is evidence.com used by most divisions?
I will tell you what we used for us for a very long time.
Yeah.
Just because the vast
It's all there already.
information that we have.
Right. I think so. It's
I
probably
had to
not.
look what after terabyte was.
Yeah, I'm not worried about
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. Commissioner Coleman, you okay with that? All right. So then, well, yeah, I would prefer to just
Wait.
do the other, really dig into this one, and then, yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on then to wearable and in-car camera systems, the general GPO 4.06.15. And again, we've had this for a while. The red, the italics are changes from division. And the highlights, I think these are things that we were flagging some words that were important to us. And I did not, as I cleaned up the document, I did not take that out. And that's no oversight on my part. It's really not.
It's not.
Nothing that essential, just like as we look through it, we were talking about transparency and that kind of thing. So I don't see anything there. So again, we've talked about this before. I think we've had it before us. The one thing that I do want to flag, and now I have to find it because I took it out, because we talked about taking it out, and it was flagged by various people on the surveillance tech work group. It was about, I gotta find a previous version of this. Give me 1 second.
While you do that, could I ask a question?
Yes.
Could you explain what it means to bad order a vehicle?
Take a vehicle out of service.
So when it says that the reason why a damaged or malfunctioning like in-car camera is not a sufficient reason to bad order a vehicle, is that reason because the camera can be replaced
Yeah, we have
separately?
redundancy cameras, so if the dash cam was broken, what will happen is we will have a suspect in the back seat, they will smash their head, they will break the camera on purpose, those things happen. So you wouldn't want to take that vehicle out of service because we have redundancy, we have our body cameras which are redundant to the dash cam. So we wouldn't want to pull that car out of service and be short a car.
So what was that? Does that feel sufficient to the committee members?
Yeah.
I agree, like if they're all wearing body cameras, like,
The
There's still a
defense
backup way.
attorney in me says, heck no, because I want all of those.
So
Yes,
when that
for
happens,
efficiency,
that would be in the
I'm
middle of
fine
a
with it.
shift, right?
Oh,
So that
okay.
happens in the middle of the shift. After that shift is over, the policy is that they would actually bad order that car, and they would take it down to radio repair to have it repaired. So that's gonna happen, it's just gonna, we're not gonna pull that car out of service immediately. It'll happen at the end of their shift.
So maybe, I mean, one thing we could do to update that language is not a reason to immediately bad order a vehicle. That, you might still,
Doesn't hurt either.
yeah,
Same.
what do you think about that?
Say it again.
So adding under J,
Oh, yes, yeah.
under procedures, that a damaged or malfunctioning ICC is not a sufficient reason to immediately bad order a vehicle instead of just bad ordering. That's what they're saying is they would bad order it after the shift is over, or eventually it's saying that the harm of taking a vehicle off if they don't have enough cars. That if we add in that it's not sufficient reason to immediately bad order a vehicle, it's not saying to never bad order. It's not a sufficient reason to ever do it, but not immediately. Which sounds like is more in line with what the practice is currently. Yeah. Did you have something on that? Oh.
Yeah, I would just say like the goal of the language is that we keep our frontline vehicles on the road and our two-man officers on the road to answer calls.
Yeah.
And when we start bad ordering cars based upon one piece of equipment being broken, then we're taking that vehicle out of service, and hopefully we have some cars for officers to jump into and get back out there. But there are times when we don't, and then we don't want to miss serious runs and calls for service because a piece of equipment that we are recording on our body cameras is out. So but the Sergeant Ball has the gist of it. I mean, it would be something that would be replaced.
Yeah.
Just not like, hey, we got to go back to the district. We can't take any more calls tonight because our camera broke. That type of thing.
So I think if we add immediately, then
Same thing.
yeah.
To immediately bad order. So and I just want to point out that this is the ICC, not the WCS, right? So there would still be, an officer would still have their wearable camera
Correct.
functioning.
Correct. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, so, okay. All right, well, we can have that. So the piece that was taken out is under section 5D, media storage and access. It looks like it's on page 9 of 11. And it had previously read, there had been captured media obtained in Cleveland Hopkins International Airport shall not be released until reviewed and approved by the Transportation Security Administration, Federal Aviation Administration, or the United States Department of Homeland Security. We talked about this last time, and basically it was flagged by some of the people who were on the surveillance tech work group that this is contrary to Ohio public records law. It would take forever, and there's a local supremacy issue here. Another commenter said that that's not how TSA does things. You're supposed to direct records requests about video recordings to local governments. So looking at those, it seemed to be definitely, that seemed to be very much what was the case, right? So
Was that something the division added as an edit, or it was just something already in there that we caught and doesn't need to be in there?
it was not added by the division
Okay.
because it's not in red and
Okay.
italics. So
That was in a previous policy.
it's in previous policy. Yeah, that everything that was not in red and italics from them is in the previous
I don't
policy.
have that version, but okay.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, we shared it before, but I wanted to give you a clean copy. So that's a change to this. All right. Are there other questions, concerns, ideas about this policy?
Let's pass it.
All right, well, hearing no questions, I make a motion that we pass 3 GPOs and send them to the full commission. Wearable and in-car camera systems definitions, 4.06.14. Wearable and in-car camera systems general, 4.06.15. And wearable and in-car camera systems supervisory reviews and investigations, 4.06.16.
I'll second.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, I will do a roll call vote. Commissioner Morera Benito,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Aye, and great job.
and I also vote yes. So those will be passed and shared with the full commission for discussion at our next full commission meeting. Okay. Moving on, the rest of these are really more assignment, future planning, like how do we get these done? So duties of command superior officers, I do not believe that has moved. Has it? Does anybody?
That is, I think, being handled.
Yeah, by another commissioner.
Yeah.
So we need to maybe reassign that.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I just feel like it's been in that commissioner's
I
hands for
can
a
take
while.
on duties of command and superior officers. I can work with the co-chairs and Commissioner Miller on that, and then I will also. I believe the break time requirements for waking mothers and peer support are under
Right.
myself, and so I will commit to having those drafts ready for the next meeting.
Okay. And I need to look back at the priorities, and maybe we can talk in another moment, but to make sure that our priorities are, if there's something missing from your priorities at this moment, if they've changed. So if you have anything that you're seeing in here is like, where is this GPO? This is a priority for us. You can speak now, but we can be in touch and decide that. The use of force, I think there was a presentation on it, and I think we need to look at that issue. So otherwise, yeah, that's it for the work session. I don't have anything else. There's one more thing on a new business, and then we can talk about that. Unless there's something I'm missing. All right. So, thorny issue then. Moving on to corrective action guidance feedback. We have heard, and I shared this with you all, we have heard from the division that they have concerns regarding the Fairness and Consistency Committee that would be created under the corrective action guidance GPO that we passed recently. And their concerns are around, and my sense is that there's a lack of understanding on that because their concerns around the grievance. I asked DC Schlott where the concerns were, and he sent me the collective bargaining agreement and it was all about the grievance procedure. And I don't personally see how that is an issue. Maybe you can speak to that, Commander. But it seems like what we create, and I know there's some issues around the speed with which we work and when things come to us and delay, because that process is about speed. I mean, grievance procedure, if you read it, it's all about timeliness and deadlines and such. So I think if there is a concern, it's probably around that. But I feel like the Fairness and Consistency Committee is a double-blind process where it's just trying to make sure that things really are being, without knowing what's happening to whom, that it's fitting the pattern and the requirements of the GPO. That makes sense?
I'm behind. Hold on. The concern is about the Fairness and Consistency Committee,
Correct.
and that's something added in the corrective action guidance.
That is one thing that we added in our
Thank you for get you
Yeah.
to speed there, okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I think
Yeah, because basically it's a committee that reviews the discipline decisions
Mhm.
and flags issues of around fairness and consistency. So it's not a body that makes any decisions. It's not a body that has any decision making power. It's not part of the grievance procedure, but it just is flags. Hey, this didn't seem fair. This, and the idea was that we are kind of doing that externally with the evidentiary hearings. And the idea was how do we set up an internal process for helping them then review their own disciplines and to ensure consistency and give officers a voice in that. And so, I think that I agree that I think that there might be some misunderstanding about what it is that's prompting those concerns. But also to me, the most important part of that policy is the is how we change the structure of the different groups of infractions. And so I'm less concerned about that than I am the other stuff. So if that is a major hurdle to getting them to implement it, then I'm less concerned about that. But I do think that like the point was to have an internal group of different officers representing kind of a breadth of different experiences that then are reviewing the discipline for them to flag internally, hey, this was, the other thing is that also they're reviewing decisions after they're made. So they're not like reviewing potential discipline decisions.
Are there any, do you have any other comments or Commissioner Coleman?
Yeah, if you have the language of the concern,
I can pull it
feel
up.
happy to send it to me. I'm wondering if it could be something like, are they maybe concerned while the grievance process is happening, you have a separate body like creating these other, even though it's not enforceable or doesn't impact it, you have another body like creating assumptions about, I don't know, that I'm happy to look to see maybe what the concerns are, but I think maybe it could be something like they don't want it informally impacting the grievance process or something. Like even though it technically
Is this something you
doesn't
can speak
impact
to in the moment, or should we circle back with you?
you have somebody saying this was not
I
fair.
remember one of the conversations early on with DC Schlott. I'm not ready to speak to it right now. However, I think it's prudent to point out that the disciplinary matrix presents the amount of time, you'll be suspended for a certain, violation of policy. So I'm not exactly sure what someone would be able to identify as inconsistent or unfair.
Mhm.
So, for example, if you don't put your camera on, you get 1 day. Everyone gets 1 day.
Mhm.
If you get an OVI, you get a certain amount of days. Now, there are some mitigating and some mitigating factors but those are all laid out in the DN. So every time there's a decision made, there's a reason behind the decision. So, for example, if it's a Group 2 policy violation and there's a range of days you can be suspended for, and the chief decides on a lower range of days, there's a reason. There's always a reason put on why it's lower than the higher. So other than that, I would just be curious to see what people think is unfair, or if they were able to point out something that was unfair.
Unfair about the discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're saying that in some theoretical world, at least, the Fairness and Consistency Committee does make sense?
Yeah, we have a whole policy that basically anyone who reads a charge letter and says what group of violation I have, say for example, I'm being charged with a policy violation. I can read the group letter, see the group number, and look at the policy and go, this is my range of days right here.
Right. So I think what we need to do then, because the sticking point here is that the monitoring team and the DOJ won't take this up until we resolve this dispute. Or dispute this question. So I think we just need to get with Vision and have you all prepared to really go deep and just answer our questions, and we answer your questions, whatever.
Of course.
So I think we need to figure out a time to do that, because I don't think we're ready to make a decision right now.
Yeah.
Do you have co-chairs? Do you have any? I don't know what you've heard from about this that?
I know, so Richard and Kayla did a lot of work on this,
Mhm.
and they added that. I would wanna talk to them for their
Yeah.
reasoning for adding it and what they,
Yeah, I mean, it's what
I
it,
wanna hear
yeah.
both sides, so I.
No, I mean, I think their reasoning is pretty clear, especially from,
Yeah, I
Richard
wanna, I wanna hear what he
so their reasoning is pretty clear. It's like, this is needed to make sure that that discipline is applied consistently without, any favoritism. And even if, as you
Well,
say,
of course,
command-
but I would wonder
wait,
what his response to
wait
the
a second,
pushback.
wait a second.
I understand what
Yeah.
you're saying,
Yeah.
but what would, okay, here's the pushback, what's your response to the pushback?
I didn't hear pushback there. I heard, we're hearing
From
from.
the.
If
from
someone,
the-
yeah, I said I
Well,
was
not from him
curious to what
directly,
the
excuse me,
concern would be.
Not from him
Yeah.
directly,
Right.
but from the.
Yeah. So that's, I think, yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah. So I think we need to have a meeting with them and we can see what comes out.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I mean, I think my only thoughts on it would be like, I just want it to be fair, consistent, and transparent. And just from the disposition letters that I've seen, I think there are several issues and concerns that why people would say that they feel like it's not consistent. Like I know that I've seen several cases where I don't think there was really, my understanding is that there's supposed to be some clear and convincing evidence to change some things, like to downgrade discipline and things like that. And I've seen instances where I don't think that was really provided. And I think that there are instances where there is it seems to be the rationale seems to be that it's what someone believes. And I think that there's there's some gray areas there. And I think that for the officers and just for everybody, it should be consistent. So I think that maybe with this fairness committee, if there are some gray areas where, for example, where someone believes that this should not be factored in as a aggravating factor, and then therefore you go on the lower end of discipline, I think that can be more consistent, and maybe having like officers at a table on a committee like that could help.
Yes, just to be clear,
areas.
mitigating circumstances, give you an example, one is someone that comes to a hearing and takes responsibility. So it's not necessarily evidence, but if they come to a hearing, they take responsibility, they don't offer excuses, that could be considered as a mitigating.
Yeah, but I think that's an example of where we think there's a gray area.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's why you need a committee like this, because then that can come to the table. To me, that feels subjective. That I think this should count as a mitigating factor. And that seems more subjective than objective. So I think that's why I kind of support it.
Well, mitigating and aggravating factors are defined in the policy.
Yeah.
But I just want to, like I said, we'll have further conversation about it. I know that DC Schlott had a lot of concerns about contractual issues and union issues. So that I think it's worth revisiting for sure.
Am I understanding? It sounds like the commander is saying once it's decided, there is no discretion because it goes in the matrix and you get XYZ. But Dr. Adams, what you're saying is before that point, there are discretionary areas that get you to once it's decided. And that's where we need the fairness committee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we will follow up with that. I'm hesitant to do that in the committee meeting, but we might want to do that. Do you all want to be in that conversation? Does it make sense to invite, I don't know if DC Schlott can come, or I think it sounds like he's the guy who needs to be here or be in conversation on this particular issue, right?
Yeah, he definitely has,
So-
if I remember correctly, had an objection to it.
Yeah, so we need to figure out how to make that conversation happen.
I think that the thing that I feel like needs clarification is that it's not affecting the actual discipline. It's making recommendations for the future, correct?
I'd have to look back at the exact language, but that's been my understanding, but we need to look at that. So we can bring that up and make sure that we understand what it says and that they understand what it says.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sounds good.
we'll figure it out.
I'm happy to join that meeting. But
All right, we'll figure out how to make that move forward. Okay. Any other questions on this or any other issues that we haven't talked about?
And I'm sorry, just for clarity, you said we're going to discuss it further in another committee?
Well, we want to have have a real conversation with DC Schlott
Okay.
to understand the concerns and to make sure he understands the policy and just that we're all in agreement because, so we'll have to talk about it again, unfortunately, in a month.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, again, the issue is that this isn't going to move forward. We passed it. It's not going to move forward until we address this concern. Because the monetary changes deal.
You passed it, somebody objected. Okay.
Yeah,
So I'm sorry, I misspoke. It is prior to the issuance, which might be why
there's
they're
some problematic
raising,
issues.
yeah,
on-
why they're raising.
So
that, yeah.
we'll have that conversation. Thanks for looking at that. I was kind of thinking that was the case, but I just wanted to make sure. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Well, this will come back to us then. So, any other questions? Nope. Okay. So we'll move on. We have time for public comment. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Lou, you always have something to say, right?
I think
There's
the
a
mic
mic behind you.
Oh, thank you.
I turned it on.
Thank you.
I turned it on.
Just 3 minutes.
Yes, 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, this is Lou. I have to say, this is the meeting we should have in the past 2-3 years. We need a lot of conversation like that, so the community can actually understand. Police make a mistake, that's because lots of the work they do has lots of the unknown factors. For example, today we hear that clearly. Some of the decisions they have to make is just in split second. You cannot do it. They cannot do it. Why? Because all the trainings they have got still cannot really cover that split second. Even they got training, guess how long the training could be? They all have hours to keep. How many hours they can go to the trainings? That's why I really wish our training committee will continue some of the good work to be transparent, showing how they have to go through the training. Now, if we think they should get more training, then we should give that suggestion. And I think they have to seriously consider making time for it. But up to this moment, we do have a workforce shortage. Lots of them working overtime. For example, myself, I'm also ran a formal member of MRAC. We even recommended training for not just for officers on the street, even for dispatchers, to help them to even do self-care, to know how they can eat better when they are on the go. They need a lot of support as well as all community members to stop tragedies happening again. It's not just say, do it, and it will be done. We actually have to physically do it. It does take time. And I wish the discussion like this will happen in probably not exactly every, but almost every meeting, especially in policy meetings, in accountability meetings, a rules meeting too. Sorry, accountability and policies is rather similar thing, but even our internal rules for this commission also has to watch out how we can help officers to get better, to have the real compliance in order for us to truly get out of the consent decree and not to get back in again. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Okay. Okay, with that, we are a few minutes past 7:30, but we will formally adjourn. Thank you.
Would you like to moderate the next consistency committees to the section on fairness and consistency committee? Do you want me to bring that to the accountability committee?
Definitely.